So we'll just go through the instructions, right? These are the 11 types that I shared you, right? Then we discussed about the move instruction. Then the interesting instruction is exchange, right? Now this exchange instruction is going to swap the contents of 2 bytes, right, or word or double word operands, right? So it is going to just exchange, right? With the move instruction, what was happening? The only thing is the source the value register value will be moved into a destination register. But what happens with the destination register content? It will be overwritten, right? It will not be preserved or it will not be stored anywhere. With the exchange, what happens when we are using these instruction exchange? Then ultimately they are exchanging the values among themselves, right? So two register values will be exchanged. So register. So in that case, both will be the source and both will be the destination, right? In this case, what is the interesting part here that we can say? In this particular instruction exchange, both operands of we used to write OPR1 and OPR2, right? So here let me use the chat box and say we are writing, say move is the opcode, and then OPR OPR1 comma OPR2. So this is operand 1 and operand 2. Now in this case, your OPR1 is basically the destination operand, right? It is a destination, and OPR2 is your source. Getting this? And when you are using exchange instruction XEHG, in this case, again the XEHG instruction will be having OPR1 comma OPR2, but in this case both operands will be source and both operands will be the destination. So you can easily imagine when you are talking about the exchanging two register values, then ultimately both like the values will be exchanged. So this is how it is going to transfer the bytes or the operands values, right? So operands may be two registers, right? So among two registers, we can exchange the value, or one register and one memory location, right? Then this instruction takes place of 3 move instructions, right? So if you want to define, or if you want to implement using simple move instruction, this is also possible, right? We can move one register content. We can exchange two register content using move instruction, but for that we need 3 move instruction. In the first move instruction, we can move the first register content into memory. In the second instruction, we will move the second register content into first register. And then in third instruction, we can move the memory where we stored the first register content in back to the second register. So using these 3 move instruction, we can exchange. So if I write the code here, so say let me write XCHG instruction, and I am exchanging the register contents EX and say EBX. This is the instruction. So single instruction is sufficient for this. But if I want to write a move instruction, in that case, I need one memory point location. So I will write a temporary memory location here, where I will store the first register content, right? Then what we'll do in the second instruction, we will move second register value into first register. So this is the second register we are moving. Now we have already stored EAX value in temporary location. So to move that value in EBX, what we can do? We can just move that value from memory location, right? So this is how, using these 3 instructions, right? Move instruction, we can exchange EAX value and EBX value, right? So in a single instruction using exchange, we can exchange, or if you want to use move instruction, then in that case we have to use 3 instructions. So exchange is the easiest way, right, to exchange 2 register content. So generally it is used in K86 programming, right? So here it does not require the temporary location to set the contents of one operand, right? Then used by implementing semaphore or simple data structures to process the synchronization, right? Now here there are some operating system concepts, right? All these terms you will come across when you talk about the operating system concepts, right? So all these terms basically when you talk about exchange instruction, that is used in a few of the advanced concepts. So next one is a stack manipulation instruction. Now when you talk about the stack, right, in one of our discussion when we discussed about 8051 microcontroller, it was discussed that um, in 8051, the microcontroller that we discussed, in that it was discussed that instruction pointer, this stack pointer increments in up direction. Bro. Now in Intel microprocessor, right, your stack increments towards down direction. Right. So ultimately, whatever the stack pointer register is there, it will always point to the top of the stack, right, top of the stack, and then it will start decrementing whenever you are pushing the value, and whenever you are popping the value, then it will be increment. Right, so ESP is the register, right, 32-bit in 32-bit architecture, which is used for as a default pointer register, and SS is the segment register, which is used as a default segment selector, right? So this combination you have to write. So you can make note of that particular combination, right? SS colon ESP is the pointer, right? It is a 48-bit pointer, which is basically used to point to the top of the stack. Right. Now in high level language, right, there are various ways, right? If you are asked to implement stack, right, in Python, right, so you can implement it. You can write a code and all. In that case, you have to decide what method you will find, right? You want your stack to be incremented in up direction or down direction. Based on that, you can manipulate the pointers, right? So depending on what is asked or what you want to implement, so accordingly you have to just write the comments over there when you are implementing. But when you are talking about the Intel microprocessors, then by default, or it is a default operation, your stack increments towards down direction. It expands towards down direction. So there are push A instruction, push instruction, push A instruction, pop instruction, and pop A instruction. These four instructions are there. Right. Now, when you are talking about the push instruction, as I told you, the 32-bit pointer is SS colon ESP, right? SS colon ESP. Now, SS colon ESP points to the top of the stack. Now, all of you can make note of it, right? Whenever you are pushing some value, right, your ESP gets decremented by 4 locations. Right, it is getting decremented. As I told you, ESP points to the top of the stack. Right. So whenever you are pushing some value, right, it's a single byte that we are pushing, a single word operand that we are pushing, and here operand size will be the 32-bit operand because it is a 32-bit. It follows the 32-bit architecture. Right. So to store 32-bit operand or the value, we need 4 bytes. All of you must be agree with this, right? So when to store 32-bit value, we need 4 byte location or 4 locations. So to make space for the value coming to the stack, your pointer should be decremented 4 times. Right? It should be decremented 4 times so that the free space which is available just below to the current stack pointer, it will be used to store that new value which is coming. All right. Now the concept of storing lower byte at lower location and higher byte at higher location will be helpful to understand as we are decrementing our ESP 4 times. So ESP will be pointing to the lower address, and from that address onwards, right? That will be the first address, then address plus 1, address plus 2, address plus 3. These all 4 locations will be used to store the 32-bit value which is coming in. All right. So here you need to just visualize that particular thing, and there are a few diagrams which you can see in literatures, right, in books, where you can easily understand, right, after decrementing ESP 4 times, which byte is stored at the new stack top, right, as it is decremented 4 times. So the new value in ESP will be the new stack top, right, and at that location, the lower byte will be stored because it will be the lower address out of the 4 addresses which are used to store this 32-bit value, right? So like that, you can go through that particular diagram. Then push A is another instruction. Push A. Push A will be the push all registers, right? Push all registers. So ultimately, all 32-bit registers will be pushed onto the stack, right? All general purpose registers will be pushed onto the stack, right? Then there is a pop instruction. Now, as a reverse of push, pop is going to work. Now, what was the sequence of operation that I told you here in push instruction? See, in push instruction, let me write it in the chat box, right? In push instruction, what exactly happens? So for push, ESP, see the first step that is happening, ESP decrements 4 times, right? So what it means, initially, before push instruction, ESP is pointing to the current stack top. And after decrementing 4 times, it will be a new stack top. No, it will be a new stack top. Now, this is the first operation that is happening. What is the next operation? It stores the value from to the new stack top. So here, after how it is happening? First, the pointer is decremented, and then the value is pushed onto or stored onto the stack. Right now, exactly in the reverse way, your pop operation is going to happen. So how? So here in reverse way means what? The second step which we discuss about the push, that happens first. Anyways, so here as we discussed, the store operation happens. So store operation is basically we are putting it into the memory. So here the stack of the 4-byte value, right? It is a 4-byte value. 4-byte value is loaded in destination register first. Now destination, right? So what is happening here? First thing is whatever the current stack top which is there, right? From there 4-byte will be first loaded, and then the first step of our push operation in the reverse way. So in the first step of push operation, what we discussed, it was a decrementing 4 times. Now in this case, it increments ESP 4 times. All right. So exactly in the reverse way and the reverse operations, right? The reverse activities. So here, when you are talking about the push, then it's stored. But when you are talking about the pop, then it is loaded. Loaded out, it will be taken from the memory. So memory to register that data transfer happens, right? And after that, so this is a all these two operations are a combination in one instruction, right? So in case of push and pop, I told you that push A is push all registers, and in reverse to that, pop A is a pop all registers. All right. Then there is an interesting set of instructions, right? Type conversion instructions. Now here, many times it is required to convert your operand from one type to the other type, right? Depending on, because many times when you are manipulating the numbers, right, there are some default registers which are used for few of the operations, right? And it is mandatory to use or to convert these operands, right? So here, in this case, we are going to 1 second. There is called so. When you are talking about the conversion, right, there is a standard set of combinations which we will be talking about. We can convert a byte operand to the word size operand. Now, why it is required, when it will be useful, right? Then when we will come across the examples, right, we will talk in detail. But at this stage, we have a set of instructions which are really useful for that, right? So it converts a byte value into word value into double word, and double word value into 64-bit. Getting this? So whenever we are dealing with the signed numbers, it will be really useful, right? Now let me ask you one question, right? If I want to write an unsigned number, right? You just take one example, right? In your notebook, you can write. So you take one example, right? this is a number that I'm writing, say 2f. 2f is a number, right? It is a 1 byte number, right? It is a byte number, and I want to write this particular number in word size in 32-bit format. So can anyone answer what will be the result? Right. What I want to write, I want to write this number in 32-bit format. This is now 8-bit format, 2f. So 2 will be represented in binary as 0010 and f will be 1111. All right. Now you tell me what will be the 32-bit representation of the same number. So you can put it in chat box. You want to write it in 32-bit format. I'm waiting for your answer. This is an 8-bit number, right? 2f. And you have to write the hexadecimal number in 32-bit format. So 32-bit means what? We will be having total 8 digits, right? 000002f, right? Is this the correct value? Can anyone just respond? Is this the correct value? Is this the 32-bit number? See, I need to understand your what we are talking about. Like, are you getting this particular point or not? See, 2f is a 8-bit number, and 0000002f is a 32-bit number. So, is this correct? So again, I need to select Omkar Patil. Omkar Patil, are you there? Omkar Patil.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you got the question. What I am asking?
Yes, sir.
What is the question? I wrote first number, that is 2f.
8-bit number, yes, sir.
It is an 8-bit number, and the next number that I have written is 00000002f. So this is which number? 32-bit number or any other number?
32-bit time.
It is a 32-bit number. All right.
Yes.
Now, how we did this? We only say, we simply prefix 0 over here. Right? We simply prefix 0 over here. But now, if I make change with the number, right? I told you that initially this is the unsigned number. But if I say that I have a signed number, right? I have a signed number. So what I will do? I will use FE as a number. Yes, Neha. Any doubts, Neha? So she raised the hand and then she left the meeting. Why it is happening? See, this is FE is a signed number, right? Now, can you write magnitude of this number? Can you calculate magnitude of this number? Anyone? What this number is? As I told you, this is a signed number. What is the magnitude of this number? Yes, anyone, and do it fast. Tell me the magnitude of this number. I am waiting for the response. I am muting myself. So we got only 2 replies. I am expecting the more and more replies about this particular question, right? Let me again type the things. FE is a signed number. FE is a signed number. It's an 8-bit signed number. FE is a 8-bit signed number. What will be the magnitude? I got 3 answers which are same, 254. Any other answer? Any other answer? See, while calculating magnitude of any signed number, we need to first understand what exactly is the structure of a signed number. Right? When I say 8-bit signed number, right? FE is a 8-bit signed number. That means out of 8-bit, most significant bit represents its sign, MSB. Right? So bit, whatever the bit 7 is there, right? In that, it will be representing the sign bit. Now let me write the binary equivalent of it, 1111, then 1110. Right? Now, if you remember in digital electronics, this concept was actually discussed. Right? This concept was discussed, and when we say that a negative number is given there, so to calculate magnitude of that particular number, right? To calculate magnitude of that particular number, which is represented in as a signed number, we need to calculate 2's complement of it. We need to calculate 2's complement of it. Anyways, that was the point that we discussed. So what is the 2's complement number of this particular number, sign number? So that is 2's complement number is 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 is the 2's complement, which represents the magnitude. And what is the sign of it? It is minus. So it is minus 2. It is minus 2. All right. Whenever we are calculating magnitude of a signed number, if the number is a positive, right? If number is positive, so now I am again repeating the same value. 2f is a signed number. Is a signed number. Right? 2f is a 8-bit signed number. It means that most significant bit of it represents the sign of that particular number, right? So here in this case, most significant bit is 0, that means it is a positive number, and for the positive number, remaining 7 bits represents magnitude, right? Remaining 7 bits represents magnitude. But when it is a negative number, in that case, the 2's complement of that particular number will give you the magnitude with sign minus. Then you need to remember, that you need to practice, you should not forget all these things, right? So here, when I gave you this particular example FE, and as I told you, this is a negative number. So my first observation that is necessary is my most significant bit. If it is 0, then in that case, I told you the remaining bits directly gives you the magnitude. So as you earlier represented that 254 or minus 254, so you calculated magnitude using all these bits. But you forgot that most significant bit is 1, so that is a negative number, right? But if it is 0, right, so that is a 7e number. So in that case, 7e is the magnitude of this number. All right, but as most significant bit is 1, so I need to calculate, to get the magnitude of this number, I need to calculate 2's complement of it, and 2's complement of it will be 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 0. Right? So all of you agree with this? It is a minus 2. It is a minus 2. All right. Now, let me tell you, like, now what is the next job? I want to convert this FE, which is my 8-bit number, into say 16-bit, 8-bit to 16-bit. So what is required in earlier case that we discussed, right? By converting these to F to 32-bit, I simply prefixed or extended these zeros. All right. So here, as I told you, FE is my negative number, sign number, right? Sign number. Now, if I write 16-bit value as 00FE, 00FE, in this case, right, this conversion will be incorrect. Why? Because my FE, its magnitude was 2 and with sign minus. But when I just put 00 over here, it had changed the sign of my value. It had changed the magnitude of my number, right? So after just prefixing this, extending these zeros, what will be the sign of this number? Its sign will be positive and the magnitude will be FE. Right, so it is changing the sign as well as it is changing the magnitude. But also in this particular case, if I want to convert byte value, which is there in sign number, right, which is a sign number, FE is a sign number. If I want to convert this, then I need to do sign extension, right? What is that concept? It is a sign extension. Right, it is a sign extension. So this sign extension is something different than the 0 extension. So in earlier case, here as we extended 0 zeros here. So in this case, when I am putting 0 0, it is 0 extension. But when I want to extend a sign of my given number, in that case, whatever the sign bit is there, irrespective of it is positive number or negative number, that sign bit will be basically it is reflected in the higher bits. So what is the sign bit here in FE? FE is our operand. So here in this case, my sign bit is 1, right? So it will be reflected in upper bits. So as we are converting this FE into 16-bit value, so this converted number will be 1111, 1111, then our number 1111 and 1110, right? Which is nothing but it is FFFE. FFFE. All right. Now with this sign extension, can you verify that magnitude is not changed, sign is not changed? So anyone, you please verify, right? All of you have to do that. Please verify that whatever the sign and magnitude that I told you earlier about the FE, which is -2, can you just justify that this FFFE is having same sign and same magnitude? You have to reply in chat box. You have to verify that yes, FE and FFFE in sign representation having same magnitude. So is this correct? Pratik is saying yes. All right. So see how it is correct. See, again, I am telling you, most significant bit is 1 indicates what? It is negative. So I am putting negative sign in, and then in bracket. In bracket, I am checking what is the 2's complement of the remaining part. So 2's complement of it will be 2. All right. So whenever we are handling sign numbers, right? Whenever we are handling sign numbers, then sign extension is compulsory. So this exercise will really help you to understand, right? So I'm expecting that all of you should do it on paper, right? Because it will really help you to understand how these bits are basically converted. So there are two types, right? One is the sign extension, and another one is a zero extension. So when we are dealing with sign numbers, sign integers, then there are it is really useful, right? There are two classes of instructions which are there, right? CBW. There is first form which is CBW, CWD, CDQ, and CWDE. These are the instructions, and there is the instruction move SX and move ZX. So now the first class, this particular first class, it works with the EAX register. So EAX is basically accumulator will be the operand. And when you are talking about the move SX or move ZX, in that case, one register operand and other maybe a register mimic. So here you can have one register as an operand, right? And other can be a register mimic. So there is no default operand combination which is given here. Whereas with CBW, the operand is always accumulated, right? So when you write CBW and all, the default operand is accumulated. So whatever the number that you want to convert, it is expected that you should put it in the accumulator. All right. There. See, CBW is the instruction. What it is going to convert? It converts C. Convert, C is for convert, B is for byte, W is for word. So convert byte to word, right? Convert byte to word. So ultimately it is converting byte value. So which accumulator is 8-bit? Now let me tell you, there is an interesting point that before I go ahead, I will highlight about the accumulators, right? Now in 32-bit architecture, I told you that EAX is a 32-bit accumulator. It is a 32-bit accumulator. Now, if I want to use 16-bit accumulator, in that case, which register is that? So that is AX. So AX is a 16-bit accumulator. X is a 16-bit accumulator. And then we have AL. AL is a 8-bit accumulator. Right. So you need to make note somewhere in your notebook that these are the accumulators, right? It is because many times when we want to deal with the accumulator, right, for with the particular size, then it happens like whether it is AL or AH, right? Getting this? So it is, you need to remember this particular part. So AL is an 8-bit accumulator. AX is a 16-bit accumulator, EAX is a 32-bit accumulator, and with 64-bit architecture, you can note down RAX is the accumulator. All right. Now these are the basically accumulators. Now here, as I told you, this CBW, CWD, it deals with the accumulator. So the content, when we are talking about the byte operand, then it is pointing or it is referring to the byte size accumulator, right? Byte size accumulator. So byte size accumulator, that is 8-bit accumulator, is a AL register. So AL value is converted into word, and that will be stored in 16-bit accumulator, and that is AX register. right? So it is going to use a accumulator as a default register, right? Then CWD, so it is converting word value to or double word, right? CWD. Now in this case, word value will be there in the 16-bit accumulator, and our 16-bit accumulator is AX, right? Now with CWD, right? CWD, it is going to extend or convert that particular number in DX register, right? This is basically converting word to double word. No, converting word to double word. Now here there will be question, right? When we are talking about the double word, then EAX is there, right, to convert this double word, but that is not the case, right? When you are dealing with one word value in AX, and you are using CWD, in that case the destination operand will be DX colon AX. What it means? The higher 16-bit of 32-bit, right, out of this double word, higher 16-bit will be available in DX and lower 16 will be available in AX, right? Now this is basically used when we are dealing with signed numbers and we want to perform division, right? So in that case, the operand combinations for the division, right, for double word division, in that case DX colon AX will be the operand that is used. Then next is converting double word to quad word, right? So double word again 32-bit, so 32-bit accumulator will be used. So 32-bit accumulator, as I told you, it is EAX and it is converting into quad word. So here it is again converting into EDX colon EAX, right? Now the next instruction is another interesting one, CWDE, right? Already we discussed about CWD. It is converting word to double word. But when we are using CWDE, E is for extended. So in this case, it is going to use the extended accumulator while converting word to double word, right? While converting word to double word, it is going to use the extended accumulator. So ultimately, your AX value, word value, will be converted into double word, and that will be stored in EAX. So depending on your requirement, you can decide, right? If you want to use this conversion for division operation, in that case it is mandatory you have to use this all three instructions. But if you want to have this complete 16-bit value, this 32-bit value in a single register, right, like EAX or EDX or EBX, then operand can be extended from AX to EAX, right? Then move SX is there, right? As I told you, sign extension. So move with sign extension. So sign bit is extended. So we are extending 8-bit to 16-bit, 8-bit to here 8-bit to 16-bit, and 8 or 16-bit to 32-bit. So we can extend from 8-bit to 16-bit or 8 or 16-bit to 32-bit, right? So any value we can convert. So here byte to double word directly we can convert, right? Then move ZX, again the same operand sizes we can have, but only difference is here we can perform the 0 extension. All right. Then there are the binary arithmetic instructions are there, right? So arithmetic operations, there are several arithmetic operations which we can see here. Add is there. So add is the add operation, adding two operands, right? Again there will be operand 1 and operand 2. In add operation, both operands will be the source because both the values will be added, and the destination operand will be the first operand, right? Destination operand will be the first operand. So OPR1 will be the destination operand and source will be both, right? So ultimately the result in OPR1 will be equals to OPR1 plus OPR. All right. So as a result of this execution, it will be operand 1 plus operand 2 value, which will be stored in operand 1. All right. Then ADC is another one. ADC is what? ADC is basically add with carry, right? So add with carry means if there is a previous carry in carry flag, that will be also added. That will be also added. So ultimately, the addition will be OPR1 plus OPR2 plus CF, right? That is a carry flag content. So ultimately, the result will be there in OPR1. right? And then INC is their increment. INC is the instruction which is generally used in pointer incrementing, or if you want to increment any number by 1, you can simply increment it by INC instruction. So in this case, so here if you talk about the add instruction, so add instruction we need 2 operands. In INC we need only 1 operand. So INC and the register or the memory pointer that you can specify here. Right. So here you can see whatever the convert instruction that we have seen, those we don't require any operand, right? So implicit operand is accumulated. Now here we discussed about add instruction where I told you that the operand 1 and operand 2 is required. So this instruction is with 2 operands, and INC is one instruction where I need only 1 operand. So there are several combinations. These three combinations are there: instruction without operand, instruction with 1 operand, and instruction with 2 operand. But the instruction without operand, it doesn't mean that it is not going to perform any operation, right? There is one instruction, right? We call it as NOP, right? It won't require any operand, but it also don't perform any operation because that instruction itself is no operation. So very interesting instruction is that, right? So NOP you can just remember that NOP instruction, right? No operand is there and no operation is there, right? Then let me continue with this SUB, SBB, and the EC subtraction. So like add, it is going to perform subtraction. SBB, subtract with borrow, right? So if there is a previous borrow, then that will be also subtracted from the operand, right? So OPR1 minus OPR2 minus borrow, that will that operation will carry out. Here DEC is exactly reverse to the INC. Again, it requires only 1 operand. So DEC and space if you want to decrement the count register, right? So in that case, you can specify that particular count register, CX or ECX, like that. All right. Then comparison and sign change is there. So here compare instruction is there. So whenever we want to compare 2 operands, in that case we can use CMP, right? Now here there is an interesting point that you need to remember about the CMP. CMP actually performs subtraction operation like SUB, right? Just focus on the statement that I am telling. Compare instruction is exactly same as SUB. It performs subtraction operation, but it don't store result in any of the operands. It don't store the result in any of the operand. What it means? It is basically used for comparison. Is it is only going to reflect the result in the carry flag, right? So only the status flags will be changed based on the results, right? So based on the results. So for example, if both operands are same, then in that case ultimately ZF will be set because 0 it will be the result of your subtraction, right? But both the operands will remain as it is. There is no, it is not going to change any content of operand when you are using compare instruction. But when you are using SUB instruction, then operand 1 will be having the result, right? Operand 1 will be having the result. So that you need to remember. So many times, like when you are talking about the switch cases and all, whenever you want to compare the numbers, right, we simply use this CMP instruction, and then we can check the flag conditions to understand what was the combination of those operands. You know, then NEG is there. So here NEG is a negate instruction. So here the operation that will be that is going to perform is it is going to subtract that particular number from 0, right? So that operation is there. So here the subtraction operation happens, right, and it is going to convert the sign of that particular number. So it is NEG. Getting this? So 0 minus that number, that operation will carry. Then multiplication instruction, very interesting instructions are these, right? So I think we will discuss MUL instruction, right? And okay. MUL instruction is the instruction in which only one operand is required, right? Only one operand is required. Now here in this case, when you talk about the signed numbers and unsigned numbers, then signed number and unsigned number, there is a change, right? So MUL is the instruction which is used to multiply two unsigned integers, right? Now there are some default combinations with MUL instruction. Now syntax of MUL instruction is very simple. It is simply MUL space. It is multiplication space, and the multiplier we have to specify in the instruction. It won't. We need not have to specify the multiplicand, because multiplicand is the accumulator, right? Multiplicand is the accumulator, so it is a default one, right? It is a default one. So here, whenever you are using MUL instruction, in that case you have to only specify the multiplier. So depending on the multiplier, it will select which will be the multiplicand, right? As I told you, multiplicand will be the accumulator. Multiplicand will be the accumulator. So which accumulator? So that will be decided based on the multiplier size. So I am specifying multiplier. So if I write MUL and if I write BX, so MUL BX indicates what is the size of my multiplier? It is 16-bit, right? BX is a 16-bit. So ultimately, the accumulator or the multiplicand will be 16-bit, and to where we can get that multiplicand, it will be we will receive it from the AX register, because my AX is a 16-bit accumulator. All right. Now here, as my 16-bit multiplier I specified in the instruction, right, as a BX, and default accumulator multiplicand is AX, right? So when you are multiplying two 16-bit numbers, ultimately the result is expected to be 32-bit. And to store 32-bit number, we need double word sized registers. So default destination of MUL instruction for 16-bit operand will be DX:AX. DX:AX. So this you need to remember, right? This combination is very interesting. Many times it happens after multiplication, right? If we are performing 16-bit multiplication, we simply focus only on AX, or many students treat our final destination register as an EAX, but that is not the case, right? Many times in examination, also in Vivas, also examiners used to ask this particular question: if you write MUL AX, where your result will be? Because we don't specify the destination register, right? Because the destination register is a default one, we cannot change, right? We cannot have this product in any other register other than this default combination. So always, whenever you are multiplying two 16-bit numbers, right, multiplier we need to specify in the instruction. Multiplicand will be the by default, right, which is we never specify in the instruction. It is by default. It is implicitly specified. So we need not have to write anywhere in the instruction. And the result is also the default one, DX:AX. So like this, 32-bit operand is there. So if you are multiplying two 32-bit numbers, so the instruction that I will write is MUL, and say EDX. So in this case, my multiplier, which is EDX, is a 32-bit, right? So with EDX as a 32-bit multiplier, my multiplicand will be also 32-bit, and my multiplicand in MUL instruction is the accumulator. So 32-bit accumulator will be involved, and 32-bit accumulator is EAX. So ultimately, the operation that will be carried out will be EAX into EDX, and the result will be stored in EDX:EAX. This will be the final destination, right? In EDX:EAX, the result will be stored. Here you can see EDX:EAX is the result register, right? because two 32-bit numbers are there, and there is possibility, right? When you multiply two 32-bit numbers, it will be producing 64-bit picture, right? Now, like this, the operand combinations are same, but the difference is only sign number, right? The input number that we are using, right? IMUL. So with IMUL, we are performing the operation on numbers which are basically sign numbers. So here with MUL instruction, we don't consider the sign, right? We treat that number as an unsigned number. So whatever the expected result are there, without considering the sign bit, we are simply performing. But as we know, when we are handling the sign numbers, then it is for performing arithmetic operations, it is necessary or it is mandatory to consider the sign of that particular number, right? So that basic philosophy, I think everyone is aware about, right? So it is so I is prefix over there. So I indicates it is a IMUL. It is a signed integer multiply instruction, right? So three variations are there, which may consist of one operand, two operand, or three operand combination is there. So like this, there is a division instruction. So that is a DIV. So when you talk about the DIV, only DIV instruction will give you the used for performing unsigned division, and IDIV is used for performing signed division, right? Signed integer division. So that is the basic difference. Now this table I will continue in the next session. Very interesting table this is, right? Now again, while performing division, DIV instruction, right? If I talk about the DIV instruction, in my instruction like multiplication operation, I used to specify only the multiplier. In case of DIV, we have to specify only divisor, and the dividend will be the default one, and that will be the accumulator. Which accumulator? So here there is a change, right? Here there is a change. So when your divisor is 8-bit, then dividend will be 16-bit. Right? When divisor is 8-bit, then dividend will be 16-bit, and the result that is expected out of division will be the quotient and remainder. So here you can see quotient will be available in the lower part of my dividend. Always remember this, quotient will be available in the lower part of my dividend. So lower half of AX. So lower half of AX is AL. So in that quotient will be there, and higher part of my dividend is AH. So that will have remainder. Right. Now for 16-bit operand as a divisor, as I told you, 16-bit, if my divisor is 16-bit, then dividend will be 32-bit. Dividend will be 32-bit, and you can see the register combination DX colon AX will be the dividend. So whenever you want to store your 32-bit number for division process, and that number is a dividend, in that case, the upper half should be stored in DX and lower half should be stored in AX. So lower 16-bit in AX and upper 16 will be in DX. And then we have to simply execute DIV, and that 16-bit operand, right? And that, as I told you, the result of it will be dividend, quotient and remainder, right? Quotient and remainder. And out of this, I told you, the lower part of my dividend will hold the quotient. So lower part of my dividend is AX here, and higher part of my dividend is DX. So AX will hold the quotient after execution of this instruction, and DX will be the remainder. All right. So like this, the 32-bit operation is going to carry out. So if I write the example of it, I will simply write DIV BX. This is the only instruction, right? The only single operand that I need to specify, DIV BX. So ultimately, DIV BX will be using 32-bit operand. So the operation that will be carried out is DX colon AX, which is divided by BX, and it is going to produce the result where quotient is available. As I told you, quotient will be in the lower part, so it will be Q will be there in AX, and remainder will be there in BX. All right. So this is how your result will be available. So accordingly, you need to use these registers for further processing. All right. So from my side, today I'm going to conclude here. So if you have any